said, this ESPN article came out and they ranked the entire Cleveland Browns rookie class. Now, they put Shedeur at 5th, Mason Graham at number 1, Carson Swearinger at 2, Quishon Jenkins at 2. So what you got, 2 2s on there? Harold Fennekin Jr. at 3. Bro, they really disrespected Shedeur, bro. Wow. No, ESPN did not brutally disrespect Shedeur like that and put Dylan Gabriel above Shedeur.
How in the world does this ESPN personality think that this jersey is a Shedeur Sanders jersey?
Well, it's a blast for us to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, so the jersey. Let's get into it because obviously this ties to one Shedeur Sanders who balled out in his first. No. I'm sorry about that.
No wonder ratings at ESPN are an absolute joke, and it's a sports outlet that's no longer respected in many ways. You hire people like this that clearly have no idea what they're talking about. They race bait all the time. They talk about left-wing politics all the time. Monica McNutt is also someone that said the reason little girls like and look up to Caitlin Clark is because she's white. I miss the Stuart Scotts back in the day. The catchphrases, the keeping it to sports, not inserting some sort of stupid cultural or societal divisive issue, and people that actually knew sports. If you like this kind of content, pushing back on the ESPNs of our day and a little bit more of, we can call it non-woke sports content, give me a follow. Let me know what you think about this. God bless.
ESPN just committed career suicide by disrespecting Shedeur Sanders in the most brutal way possible, and the internet is about to make them pay for it. While Shedeur was overseas in London getting honored by Chelsea Football Club with 44 million followers watching, ESPN ranked him dead last in the Browns rookie class. Dead last, below Dylan Gabriel, below undrafted players, below guys who barely saw the field. They gave him a 19 QBR and had the audacity to put the backup quarterback who never started a game above him in their rankings. But here's where this gets absolutely nuclear. Shedeur just got international recognition from one of the biggest sports organizations in the world, while ESPN is trying to bury him with fake narratives and manipulated stats. The disrespect is so obvious, so blatant, so coordinated that even casual fans are calling it out. And now the backlash is coming. This isn't just another bad take. This is ESPN exposing their agenda on live television, and they're about to find out what happens when you try to destroy the career of someone who's already gone worldwide.
Having a great night tonight, so it looked like Shedeur Sanders has made headlines after receiving a special honor from a London soccer team, well, football team, I should say. And let's pull it up right now. So if you guys don't know, Shedeur Sanders has been overseas pretty much all week, I believe. Deion Sanders Jr. spoke about Shedeur being in London earlier this week on Well Off Media. So this is the Chelsea Football Club. This is where Shedeur Sanders was at. It's actually in Stamford Bridge.
Look, I need you to understand the absolutely insane contrast that just happened in the sports world. On one side of the globe, you've got Shedeur Sanders being honored as a VIP guest by Chelsea Football Club, one of the most prestigious sports organizations on the entire planet. They gave him a commemorative jersey. They posted him on their social media to 44 million followers. They treated him like the international star that he is. And on the other side, you've got ESPN, a struggling American sports network that's been hemorrhaging viewers for years, trying to rank him dead last among Browns rookies, below players nobody's even heard of, below a backup quarterback who never started a single game. The disrespect is so blatant, so coordinated, so obvious that even people who aren't Shedeur fans are calling it out. Because this isn't about football analysis anymore. This is about an agenda. This is about a media company that's so threatened by the Sanders family that they're willing to destroy their own credibility just to try to tear Shedeur down. Let me paint the full picture for you, because the details matter here. Shedeur Sanders has been overseas in London all week. Deion Sanders Jr. talked about it on Well Off Media earlier this week, and while he was there, Chelsea Football Club, The Chelsea, with their iconic blue jerseys and their legendary Stamford Bridge Stadium, invited him as a VIP guest to one of their matches. Chelsea Football Club. Let me emphasize this. This is a team that's part of the English Premier League, one of the most watched sports leagues in the entire world. They have 44 million followers on social media. They're not some small-time organization trying to get clout by associating with Shedeur. They are the clout. They're the establishment. They're one of the most recognized sports brands on planet Earth. And they honored Shedeur Sanders. They gave him a commemorative jersey with his name on it. They posted him on their official channels. They treated him like the star that he is. Not because his dad is Deion Sanders, not because of his last name, but because Shedeur himself has built a brand and a following that transcends American football. He's literally a worldwide phenomenon right now. Shedeur posted scenes from his London trip on his Instagram, pictures at what looks like Buckingham Palace or one of the historic castles, shots of him experiencing the culture in the city. The kid is living his best life, getting recognized internationally, building relationships with global sports brands, and expanding his reach beyond the NFL. And then ESPN drops their Browns rookie rankings. Mason Graham at number 1. Okay, he's a defensive tackle who had a solid season. I can respect that. Carson Swarner at 2. He's the linebacker who led all rookies with 156 combined tackles, more than 50 ahead of the next closest rookie. That's impressive. I'm not going to argue with that placement.
Let me read this, man. Usually the teams that lead in a total points by rookies are going to be led by a quarterback. That's not the case. Rookie quarterback Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders both came out with negative total points and terrible QBRs with 31 and Shedeur at 19. Shedeur's QBR is messed up because of wide receivers, but we're not even going to get into all that. But those would have been the bottom ratings in the league if Gabriel and Sanders had enough pass attempts to qualify.
But then it starts getting weird. Quishon Jenkins at 2 as well. Apparently there's a tie or a typo in their rankings. Earl Fanning Jr. at 3. The tight end had 72 receptions for 731 yards, which is legitimately a great rookie season. No complaints there. And then we get to the quarterbacks. Dylan Gabriel at 4. Shedeur Sanders at 5. Dead last among the notable rookies. Dylan Gabriel, the backup. The guy who got all the practice reps while Shedeur sat on the sideline watching. The guy who never had to deal with the historically bad offensive line. The guy who operated in a completely different context with completely different circumstances. ESPN ranked him higher than Shedeur Sanders. Let me repeat that because I need you to understand how absolutely insane this is. The backup quarterback who barely played got ranked higher than the rookie who started games, took an NFL record amount of hits and pressure, and somehow still managed to avoid being catastrophically worse than league average, despite operating under historically abnormal conditions. ESPN's justification? QBR. They said Dylan Gabriel had a 31 QBR while Shedeur had a 19 QBR, and therefore Dylan deserved to be ranked higher. QBR, the stat that ESPN literally invented, the stat that nobody outside of ESPN's headquarters actually trusts or uses as a reliable metric, the stat that factors in things like dropped passes and receiver performance, things that are completely out of the quarterback's control. And here's the kicker. ESPN themselves admitted in their own article that Shedeur's QBR was messed up because of wide receivers. They acknowledged that the stat doesn't tell the whole story. They admitted that external factors impacted his rating, and then they used that same flawed metric to justify ranking him last. Do you see the game they're playing here? They're using a stat they know is flawed, acknowledging it's flawed, and then still using it to push their narrative. That's not journalism. That's not analysis. That's agenda-driven propaganda designed to make Shedeur look bad. The article goes on to say that both quarterbacks came out with negative total points and terrible QBRs, and that those would have been the bottom ratings in the league if Gabriel and Sanders had enough pass attempts to qualify. Let me break down what ESPN is really saying here. They're admitting that both quarterbacks operated in terrible situations. They're acknowledging that neither one had good statistical outputs. But instead of providing context about why that happened, historically bad offensive line play, lack of weapons, scheme issues, coaching sabotage, they just throw up their hands and say, well, they both sucked, but Dylan sucked slightly less according to our made-up metric.
Stuff. And it's all these little hinted jabs. Like, how do you got a job? She says in this that she's been doing this for 16 years. And I've seen this before. And it's gaslighting, and it has to stop. We've seen this about the practice reps all week. We've heard ex-players say different stuff where some had a little split for the backups getting some reps. Some didn't. Some didn't. Like, you don't have to gaslight us on that. Do better.
That's not analysis. That's lazy, agenda-driven content designed to generate clicks and controversy, while pushing a narrative that fits their predetermined conclusion about Shedeur Sanders. And you know what makes this even more insulting? The timing. ESPN drops this ranking the same week that Shedeur is getting international recognition from Chelsea Football Club. The same week he's expanding his brand globally. The same week he's showing the world that he's more than just an NFL player. He's a cultural icon with worldwide appeal. It's almost like ESPN saw Shedeur getting positive attention and said, nah, we can't have that. We need to bring him down a peg. We need to remind people that we control the narrative in American sports. But here's what ESPN doesn't understand. Their power is fading. Their influence is diminishing. They're not the gatekeepers anymore. Social media has democratized sports commentary. Fans can see through the BS. They can compare stats themselves. They can watch the games and form their own opinions instead of just accepting whatever ESPN tells them to believe. And when you try to rank Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback who survived historic pressure rates and still performed better than expected given the circumstances, below a backup who barely played, people notice. They call it out. They question your credibility. They start looking elsewhere for their sports content. That's what's happening right now. The backlash against this ranking has been immediate and severe. Fans are pointing out the obvious flaws in ESPN's logic. They're highlighting the context that ESPN conveniently ignored. They're asking why a backup quarterback with minimal playing time deserves to be ranked higher than a starter who dealt with unprecedented adversity. And ESPN has no good answers, because there are no good answers. This ranking wasn't based on objective analysis. It was based on an agenda to diminish Shedeur Sanders and prop up the narrative that he's not as good as advertised. Now let's talk about Mike McDaniel for a second, because there's actually some positive news buried in all this controversy. According to multiple sources and predictions floating around NFL circles, the Browns are likely going to hire Mike McDaniel as their next head coach. Mike McDaniel, the former Miami Dolphins head coach who built top 10 offenses in back-to-back seasons, the offensive genius who helped Tua Tagovailoa succeed despite questions about his arm strength and durability, the young, innovative coach who's not afraid of the spotlight and knows how to work with talented quarterbacks in challenging situations. If McDaniel gets hired, this could be the best thing that ever happened to Shedeur's career, because McDaniel is everything that Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees weren't. He's creative, he's offensive-minded, he's proven he can design schemes that maximize a quarterback's strengths while minimizing their weaknesses.
Oh, yes, they did. Damn, they did put Dylan Gabriel over Shedeur in the rookie rankings. They put Shedeur at last, dog. What the fuck? Are you serious? Are you serious? Y'all seriously gonna put Shedeur at last? Last? Y'all truly think he's last in this whole little thing? Let me read this, man. Usually the teams that lead in a total points by rookies are going to be led by a quarterback. That's not the case. Rookie quarterback.
And here's the beautiful irony in all of this. While ESPN is trying to bury Shedeur with their fraudulent rankings, the actual NFL coaching market is recognizing his potential. Teams are interviewing offensive-minded coaches specifically because they want someone who can develop quarterbacks. The Browns are reportedly targeting McDaniel because they believe he's the right fit to maximize Shedeur's abilities. The people who actually matter, the coaches, the front offices, the decision makers, they're not buying ESPN's narrative. They're watching the tape. They're analyzing the data. They're recognizing that Shedeur operated under historically difficult circumstances and still showed enough talent to build around. But ESPN wants you to believe he's the worst rookie on the team, below undrafted players, below guys who played special teams, below a backup quarterback who never started a game. The disrespect is so obvious that even the content creator breaking down this story couldn't believe it. You can hear the genuine shock in his voice when he's reading the rankings. What the f***? Did y'all really put Dylan Gabriel over Shedeur? Y'all lying. Please tell me y'all plan. This gotta be clickbait. That's the reaction of someone who can't comprehend how a supposedly legitimate sports media company could publish something so transparently agenda-driven. And that reaction is shared by thousands of fans who looked at those rankings and immediately knew something was wrong. ESPN's credibility has been declining for years. They've lost subscribers, they've laid off talented journalists, they've shifted away from actual sports analysis toward hot takes and manufactured drama. And decisions like this Browns rookie ranking are accelerating their decline. Because when you prioritize narrative over truth, when you push agendas over analysis, when you disrespect players who are clearly talented just because you don't like their last name or their family or their confidence, eventually people stop trusting you. They stop watching your shows, they stop clicking your articles, they find other sources for their sports content. And that's what's happening to ESPN right now. They're hemorrhaging viewers and revenue, while independent creators, podcasts, and social media personalities are building massive audiences by providing honest, unbiased coverage that fans actually trust. Shedeur Sanders doesn't need ESPN's validation. He's got Chelsea Football Club posting him to 44 million followers in London. He's got international recognition. He's got a growing brand that transcends American sports. He's got NFL teams interviewing offensive geniuses specifically to develop him. ESPN can rank him last all they want. The world knows better. The coaches know better. The fans know better. And soon, when Shedeur gets the right coach and the right system and finally gets to show what he's capable of, ESPN is going to look even more foolish than they already do. So here's where we're at. ESPN just ranked Shedeur Sanders dead last among Browns rookies, using a flawed QBR metric they themselves admitted was messed up because of wide receivers. They put Dylan Gabriel, a backup who barely played, above a starting quarterback who survived historic adversity. And they did all this the same week that Chelsea Football Club honored Shedeur in front of 44 million followers in London. The disrespect is obvious, the agenda is transparent, and the backlash is only beginning. Meanwhile, the Browns are reportedly targeting Mike McDaniel, an offensive genius who could finally give Shedeur the system and support he needs to thrive. ESPN can try to bury Shedeur all they want, but the world is watching, the coaches are watching, and when Shedeur proves them all wrong, ESPN is going to be left explaining why they were so determined to destroy a talented young quarterback's reputation. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is ESPN's ranking the most disrespectful thing you've ever seen? Should they be held accountable for pushing fake narratives? And are you excited about the possibility of Mike McDaniel coaching Shedeur? If you made it this far, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're going to keep calling out this BS every single time. We're not going to let ESPN control the narrative. Smash that like button and let's keep this conversation going. Peace and chaos.